I'm the common denominator in every single relationship, and really started to take ownership of my own energy and recognizing my own patterns and learning new skills. I realized, okay, instead of if my children would just listen, it became I want me to listen to me and me to listen to them. I want me to help me out more. I want me to help my husband more. I want me to stop judging me for one single second. That was a huge one where I had internalized the voice of my mother and others and then was doing it to myself.
So the most powerful conversations that I have are with other women who have coached other women because they learned to coach themselves. They became aligned from the inside out. Welcome to the Confident Homeschool Mom podcast. I'm Teresa Wiedrich, certified life coach for homeschool moms. This is the podcast for the mom who looks capable on the outside, but feels scattered and unsure on the inside. I spend my days being the support, the clarifier, and the cheerleader for the woman behind the homeschool family. My work focuses inward. Most homeschool overwhelm has nothing to do with curriculum. It has everything to do with the pressure, the perfectionistic tendencies, and the old stories we carry inside. Every episode, I want to help you make one small shift, not a perfect plan, just 1% shift. A 1 degree from pressure to presence, because that is all it takes to begin moving your homeschool family life towards something more peaceful, more connected, and more you. I believe you are the most important curriculum in your homeschool, and you deserve a seat at your homeschool table too. If you've spent your life being the good girl, the one who kept the peace, said yes when you meant no, and made sure everyone was okay around you and somehow still ended up disconnected and wondering how you got here, this episode is for you. Diane Sorensen is a boundaries and empowerment coach, host of the Chaos to Connection podcast, and someone who has lived that story from the inside out. She helps women dissolve the patterns of people-pleasing, approval-seeking, and emotional suppression that were never theirs to carry in the first place, and help them to find their way back to themselves. I'm delighted to introduce you to Diane. Welcome, Diane. You caught me on a day where I feel full on perimenopausal hormone. It's very foggy up here. There's a lot of angsty sort of energy.
Oh, I had that yesterday. I was very annoyed and in angst yesterday. We're human and it just happens that way, right?
Yeah, this phase of womanhood.
We'll just go with the flow. And I will tell you something too. I have never done an interview in this space right here.
Oh,
but I've been meeting with my VA in the space and it just feels so genuine and comfortable. And I thought,
I'm in your kitchen having a cup of tea.
I think I'm going to try to do a podcast interview this way because it just feels like I'm bringing my genuine self here instead of it being staged or something.
I think that's great, especially because part of your tagline is about authenticity. And we're learning about how to connect with people via podcast, but really it is about how to connect with people from our kitchen into the entire world. Everything that you speak to is the work that I do with women.
Yeah.
Except in the home education space.
Yeah. And I was interested in that because as I was reading on Instagram and stuff, it's, you know what? The mothers in the homeschool space are going through exactly the same thing as mothers who are working outside the home. It's the same internal experience, but our outside experience is different.
I think there's so many commonalities. The work that we speak to, like the invisible load of motherhood, I think it's a womanhood thing. It's not even a motherhood thing. It gets amplified in motherhood. I know my experience absolutely gets amplified in the homeschool space because you're taking on the 24/7, 2-decade job. And your heart is 100% connected to those kids and what's going to happen to them. And it's a serious load we take on and one that we naturally have just as, I think, women. So tell me why you got into the space in the first place, into the coaching the way that you did.
Yeah, it organically happened. So if to go back to my wake up call, and that came with one of my children really waking me up. And that was when she was 17. I found out that she was self-harming. And that was such a dark And it was just a terrible experience. But it was the catalyst for my own growth. It opened up. So it was this one question, how did we get here? That had me just open things up a crack where I remember thinking, I don't know how we got here, but I need to figure this out. I don't even know what that means. But then I started noticing opportunities coming my way, books that came my way that kind of shifted my perception. I discovered the invisible patterns that
Mhm.
I had inherited, the people pleasing, the perfectionism, the pressure to get it right, and that I had unknowingly passed on. And she was feeling that pressure. And what I came to later on was she was showing me on the outside what I had actually been doing on the inside to
Yes.
myself for years. And I think my mother and all the mothers before that, but now she was showing it on the outside somewhere where I couldn't look away.
Mm.
And so we had to address this. And so I, at the time, was an early childhood teacher. And so some opportunity came my way of I became informed of a relationship-based program called Conscious Discipline. So I trained in that. I worked with Dr. Bailey, who was a creator, and I brought that into my classroom. And it was the perfect setup for me to practice these more relational skills
Mhm.
instead of these prescribed roles that we were playing out. I'm the teacher, you're the child. So
Yeah.
you must do this. This is my classroom, my rules. Same thing at home.
Mhm.
I'm the adult, you're the child, my rules, you just follow them. And so what happened was we created our classroom. How do we want this classroom to feel?
Right.
What are the things we need to put in place so that they do feel this way? And then doing that also in my home. So simultaneously, I was practicing these skills personally and professionally. And then over time, that just organically, people were just noticing that my classroom was different and they couldn't figure out what it was that I was doing until they started asking and say, all these people these from administration kept showing up in my classroom. And I'm like, why? What is happening here? And so finally, I had my supervisor say, people are coming to experience this. They don't know what's going on. And I said, oh, this is what's going on. I am putting this framework into place where we are actually creating relationships here,
Mm.
not just
Yeah.
prescribed roles
Yeah.
and performance. It wasn't based anymore on the performance, although that was a little bit tricky because in the school system, there are outcome-based things that they are looking for. So anyway, so that just led to me then becoming the behavior specialist for that program and teaching other educators this framework. And then later on, families starting to ask me, can you work with us personally outside of the school system? And so eventually, so I tried some of that and I knew I couldn't do both. And so I finally made the decision to leave the school system and just go into
Focus on
coaching.
women.
So then I got a
Mm.
certification. I focus on women. A lot of them are mothers who want to just get out of the chaos and feel
Mhm.
more connected in their life. So that is what I kept hearing. That is the through line that I kept hearing from women. I just want out of the chaos. Is when you ask them, what do you want? That's a pretty loaded question. Is I don't know. And so I'd start asking, what do you want more of? Or what do you want
Mhm.
less of? And finally they'd say, I just want out of the chaos and I want to
Mhm.
feel more connected.
Yeah.
And so I primarily focus on relationships, and a lot of that comes through parenting. But I do have some women that come to me for relationships with their partner or their mother. Those are usually one of the three relationships they are looking to work on. And it really doesn't matter which doorway. Once you work on one, it
It affects
evolves
everything.
into all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had this conversation in my Confident Homeschool Mom Collective. So it's the women who have gone through coaching with me who are part of a group after the coaching. And last week I was listening to them speak about their experiences about breaking generational patterns. And you brought up the conversation about breaking generational patterns. I've been writing my memoir since I was 30, and I found it really a very effective tool for healing and for clarifying what really happened. What was the generational pattern that I wanted to break anyway? And living in the world of break the cycle. We are the generation of cycle breakers. I appreciate the concept, and also we are still unlearning and practicing all these things within our families. And so in some ways, I'm like, breaking the cycle. That sounds very empowering and also at the same time incomplete. I'm listening to this younger generation of mothers. I'm hearing that they weren't given the messaging that we were. We were very much told this is your role and this is how you show up as a woman, as a mother. And things have been just blown out of the water in the last, I don't know, 30 years.
Yeah. I like to think of it more as we're dissolving
Nice.
patterns rather than breaking them because, yeah, you're right. I don't like that word either. Because what will happen is as we learn new skills, it's not that, I think the traditional, oh, I'm going to stop doing that and I'm going to start doing all of this. And that's not transformation. Transformation is about the openness and the willingness and the commitment to learn new skills. And you pick up one new skill, practice that again, again. When you master that, great. Now you pick up another skill. Forget about, yes, you're still going to have these other things you do, but over time, the better you get at these new skills, the old ones will just naturally fall away. And it'll all of a sudden, like me, I used to be a yeller in my home with my children. And over time, I look back and went, oh, I haven't yelled
Me
for a
too. My
while.
experience too. I'm like,
It
you're not.
wasn't one day I was
No.
yelling and then do this and
Yeah.
this, and you won't. No,
No.
it doesn't work like that.
No, it doesn't. And it's so hard when you're talking with a mom who is in that pattern and actually have the conversation that, listen, there is hope, but there's a lot of work in between now and then. And in the beginning phases, that's the most challenging because you have so much shame attached to your behavior. And at the same time, you have no confidence that what you're about to do is going to work because you've never done it. And you probably didn't see anybody else do it before you, your parents.
That's right. That's right. Because you are the cycle breaker. You are the cycle dissolver
Cycle dissolver.
that is saying, I want to do it different.
Yeah.
I want something else. I want change. And the beautiful thing about this work is as we work with these women and they start to see themselves in deeper light and understanding themselves more, they actually discover the power that they have to create lasting, sustainable. And that's why I'm here.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here. Because I've lived it and I'm still living it. And that's what I want for other women.
I love
Um,
that. I
yeah.
love that. They come in through a certain door to connect with you around possibly motherhood. And that's my experience too, but it's in the homeschool motherhood space. So then I speak about certain challenges that people have in a variety of different ways, but one of them is in the context of relationship to their kids being connected and really seeing things for what they are. Especially in coaching, I'm having this conversation about relationships, but what I see is the attachment wounding that we had when we were children. We take those patterns of relating and we bring them into our relationship with our partner and have to discover that either I don't want to keep doing this because this is so painful to keep repeating the process. And so break the relationship, or we're going to have to figure out how to address the attachment wounding inside the relationship. And that has been my story, our story, and learning how to heal from that and address each other's needs. That has been the most powerful healing relationship for me, and subsequently impacting every other relationship that I've had. And I don't usually have that conversation here because that's not typically what most homeschool moms are saying is the relationship with my husband is really not healthy and the kids are watching and I feel bad and this is not good. That's not usually the portal that I have with women, but it absolutely is a discussion that I have on repeat in coaching.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm divorced and remarried and in a very different relationship
Beautiful.
now. And the marriage I'm in now, we are able to each grow individually
Yeah.
as well as together. And it's just been very, very
Powerful, hey?
fulfilling. But this work has been a huge part of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when I first started and when I was back teaching, I was noticing that too. It's, oh, my relationships with these children and even my own children are starting to unfold differently. But then every single relationship was unfolding more functional way. And it was, I always had to laugh because I'm not teaching anybody else anything. I am just learning more about myself and how, and I'm just showing up differently, not because I'm
Yeah.
trying to show up differently, even. It just naturally, like we were talking before, as I learned new skills, I naturally showed up in a different way in my relationships. So I always go back to, I always said the common things like, oh, if my children would just listen, my life would work better.
Yeah.
If my husband would just get on board or help out more, my life would work better. And if my mother would stop judging me for one single second, my life would work better. And when I started to do this work and realize, oh, I'm the common denominator in every single
Yeah.
relationship, it really started to take ownership of my own energy and my own recognizing my own patterns and learning new skills. I realized, okay, instead of if my children would just listen, it became I want me to listen to
Mhm.
me and me to listen to them. I want me to help me out more. I want me to help out my husband more. I want me to stop judging me for one single second. That was a huge one where I had internalized the voice of my mother and others and then was doing it to myself.
So the most powerful conversations that I have are with other women who have coached other women because they learned to coach themselves. They became aligned from the inside out.
Yeah.
And
So instead of having an inner bully,
yeah,
you have an inner coach. Not that
right.
sometimes the bully shows up.
Mhm, of course.
And yesterday, my inner bully was showing up, and then the inner coach needed to come in and challenge that inner bully.
You use the word revolutionary in your tagline and that this work is revolutionary. And that's not the word that I typically say. I usually refer to it as being earthquaking because
Mm.
it affects everything. But I think what strikes me about this is common, right? The parallel, the revolutionary and the earthquake. Just what you said is that it started in one relationship and then it ripples out in every other relationship. And you're the common denominator. And that's not to say that we as women are responsible for other people's behavior that is not right or not kind. We are definitely not responsible for that. And also, when we shift, when we make significant shifts, and like you said, put practice to those skills, it is inviting. In fact, I'd say requiring other people to respond to that.
Yeah. And we teach people how to treat us by the way we show up,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. And so when we are just automatically showing up in all these patterns and we're just reacting to stimulus all day long, we don't even realize we can't figure out why are they treating me like that? Why are they always asking me to do everything? What do you do? What's your answer? I say yes. Okay, there you go. That's why.
Yeah.
Or we tend to have a what we call a boundary and then give it to somebody else to maintain and then can't figure out why are they not maintaining it.
Yeah.
And it's because it's not theirs to maintain. They're actually so say somebody said to me recently, what if somebody keeps calling me after 9 o'clock and I tell them, don't call me after 9 o'clock, but they keep doing it. And I asked, what did you do? Did you answer? And yes, of course. Okay. Then that's what they learned.
Yeah.
That's where you're writing your own boundary. You're not maintaining it. So they're testing it and they're not even testing it on a logical level. They've gotten used to you say this, but then if they call, you answer. So really what we've taught is that our word doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
We don't
That's the
really mean
exact
what we
same,
say.
the same
Yeah.
conversation I have with moms around this scenario, which was certainly my scenario. I was trying to learn how to integrate time for myself within the homeschool construct. So I'm with my kids 24/7 unless I bring them to youth group or to their part-time jobs or extracurriculars or something. And then I need an hour, 2 hours just to do something creative or sit and read something. I liked writing, so I wanted to learn how to write. And I couldn't always just hire a babysitter. I moved a lot or we did a lot of traveling. So I couldn't always do that, didn't always know people. My husband was very busy, so he wasn't always there, certainly not during the day. And so then I learned how to eke out time for myself while the kids were also in the same room or in their rooms. But why it didn't work in the beginning is because I would say, I want quiet and just for 1 hour, which actually is a long time for certain ages of kids. But I would say just 15 minutes then. And they would still, certain kids not honor it. And it wasn't just age and stage, it was that they were just not used to not involving or engaging me at that time. But also, I didn't believe it myself. I hoped that they would
Yes.
honor it. I had to actually put
Yes.
feet to that.
Yeah, and that's a big yeah. Oftentimes we go in with the energy of, okay, I'm gonna say this, but it's probably not gonna happen anyway. And the thing is that we can't see energy, but it can be felt.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and so that comes with self-trust, right? Boundaries come. It's a really a self boundaries are self-trust practice.
Excellent way to put that. I love that. Help me understand that more.
So I always think confidence is about self trust, trusting myself, being able to make decisions and trust, not just trust that it's going to all turn out okay, because sometimes it doesn't, but trust that I'm capable of navigating either way, even if it doesn't work out the way I had hoped,
Yeah.
that I can trust that I can navigate that and the feelings that come with it and make another decision
Yeah.
and then evaluate and see where that goes. So traditionally, we're not most of us that grew up on traditional system, we didn't learn self-trust. We learned to listen to everybody outside of us.
Yeah.
Just listen to me, do what I say. And so I did. I was the good girl.
Me too.
Who became the good mom,
Yep.
doing everything right.
Yep.
And yeah, I didn't trust myself.
Yeah.
And it's even, I just keep growing. Growing doesn't stop. We don't do this work and get to the end game and go, okay, now I'm good. We just keep evolving. And my husband, not too long ago, said to me, I just can really see a difference between, we just celebrated our 20-year anniversary.
Yay,
This,
congratulations.
thank you. And he
Yeah.
said, I can really feel the difference where you now make decisions. He said, when we first got married, I was making all the decisions.
Yeah.
And that was very difficult on the other person,
Yeah.
because they
I
have to
had
make
no
all the
idea.
decisions. So I
Me
didn't trust
too.
myself to make any decisions.
Yeah.
And then sometimes he'll jokingly say, okay, I like the self growth you're doing, but what's enough?
Truly revolutionary.
I really want to teach, or that's what I really want to support mothers in, is that self trust, that self leadership, so that we can be leading our children rather than being so afraid that we're going to mess them up. Because when we parent from that place, and we've all, I think, said that and have had the fear of, oh God, I just don't want to mess them up. But they're going to mess up. We're going to mess up, and that's okay. We can navigate the mess ups. In fact, we need them in order to navigate and know what works, what doesn't work,
Yeah.
and how to problem solve and how to make new decisions
Yes.
and all of that, and to take responsibility for our own choices and actions. And yeah, so we need to mess up.
We have this internal desire to either right the wrongs of our own childhood and make everything perfect for our children. That is why my website is called Capturing the Charmed Life, because that's the one that I started with back when I first started at early mothering. And I didn't want to get rid of it because I'm like, you know what? That's the aspiration. That's the goal. And it's not it could be unrealistic if I'm like, there's only one way to do it and everything must align. It has to all be right. Or I can actually say, maybe my expanded vision of what a charmed life is, so it encompasses the challenges and, like you said, the things that I didn't do things perfectly in, and then I'm growing and learning from those things. I do.
And what I found too is the more afraid I am to mess up, the more messing up I do.
That's
And
it.
when I'm not so afraid of it, I actually am, my brain is able to function better and actually make better decisions and not mess up as much.
Yeah, that's so true. It's called grace, at least the way I've framed it. Over the course of time, I've come to understand it. It's actually grace that I'm looking for. And that was not the system that I was raised in. And it wasn't the system that I also religiously was trained in. It wasn't the system that I see in a school. All of these different systems taught me to people please and to listen outward to say, what do you want me to do? Because I want to get the stamp of approval. I want you to tell me I'm worthy. I want you to tell me I'm valuable. And so I'll keep chasing after that. And until I've twisted myself into such a pretzel that it feels like even when I do the right thing, I'm not getting what I want. And so then finally you get to the point of, okay, I think we need to go back to the drawing board. And then you realize, just like you said, there is a different way. You are the common denominator. It requires you to unlearn people pleasing.
Yeah, and that's the message I really want women to hear is you get to this place and you've checked all the boxes
Yeah.
and you're like, this is it because it doesn't feel like I thought it was going to feel.
Yeah.
And then we think, oh my gosh, there's something wrong with me because I just can't be happy with anything. I have all the things,
Yeah.
even the beautiful children, the whatever. And why am I not happy or joyful or fulfilled? And I just really want when people to hear that is not a flaw. That is your internal system saying, oh, okay, now we're mature enough. Now it's time for something different. And it's time to take a new path.
So, what would you say some of the signs are when someone sees, okay, it's time to shift?
I would say when we feel exhausted, we feel unfulfilled, even though we have all of the cultural check marks, the whatever that is for you. Usually it's the family, the children, the home, the money, security, and yet I don't feel really fulfilled.
Hmm.
If you're feeling scattered, if you're feeling, again, that exhaustion, if you feel like you need to do it all to keep it all together, or you look on the outside like you have it all together, but inside it doesn't feel good. And also, if you're the one that says yes all the time and you really don't have the capacity, but you're saying yes anyway, you're agreeable, you're accommodating, you're avoiding conflict, you're keeping all of those things, keeping the peace, make sure everybody's happy. It's so much and it's so exhausting.
I hear you describe the women that you work with as over responsible and disconnected from themselves. And that's a common denominator between who we work with for sure. What I also I use as a tool the Enneagram. Are you familiar with Enneagram?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And I can see how different women become overtaken by the responsibilities of motherhood, and in specific in my world, the homeschool motherhood. I noticed that Enneagram 9 and 2, I'm a 2, tend toward being over responsible in a certain way. But even Enneagram 8 or 7, I see how they still are over responsible and feel internally frustrated. And so it's intriguing to me to watch various women, and I'm using these numbers, this concept in a way to help me understand them at core, but it doesn't matter who they are. Women, they tend to being over responsible and going full force in whatever they're doing, serving other people or working with other people to help them, and then grow in disconnection from themselves.
Yeah. And I'm a 7, by the way.
Right.
And I love these type of tools just because it gives us a sense that we're all human and we're all different humans. So these roles that have been it's historically prescribed to whatever gender you are, if you're a child or you're an adult or whatever, it or how motherhood is supposed to be. We're all different humans. And so life is very individual.
Yep.
When we talk about boundaries are very individual. Raising children, motherhood is a very individual experience. And just because you have raised 3 children and now you have a 4th, it's going to be very individual for that 4th one, right? Because they're all
Different.
different
Yeah.
humans.
I have an Enneagram 7 kiddo, and she is so much fun. She really is. And wise, deeply wise. She was one of the kids that really could help me understand myself. She was just a healthy, clear, wise reflector of things. So I remember one time when I yelled at her and she was like, she said, she's very little, and she said, Mommy, I think that hurts my feelings, but it doesn't make me want to do what you're saying, or something like that. And I was like, damn, girl,
Yeah,
what a teacher.
that is very deep wisdom.
No truer words.
Yeah.
So I've heard you speak about self-abandonment and moving into self-connection. What does that practically look like for women? How do they move toward connecting in with themselves?
Yeah. So I use a framework that really is, and you probably do too, where it's immersive, right? It's the experience that they start to become connected within their body, feeling their feelings
Yeah.
in their body. So self-abandonment, that is so common, and yet we don't realize that we're doing it. What do you mean self-abandoning myself? And it's really abandoning these emotions, because I'll take my experience. I always say in my family, we didn't do emotions. We didn't do emotions.
Yeah, I relate.
And even happy, don't be too happy because that's too much. Just kind of neutral. I didn't learn how to navigate emotions. I didn't even know what they felt like in my body or where in my body they were. That was just a very strange language to me at first. And so we do a lot of that type of work and just understanding the patterns of self-abandonment. I've named a lot of them today in the don't upset anybody. I always say if there was one lesson I learned growing up, it was do not upset anybody under any circumstances.
Yeah.
And so that really created a disconnect with emotion. There's I think there's some kind of sense that emotions, if you have emotions, especially the uncomfortable ones like frustration or anger or disappointment, that something is wrong. And I'll even catch myself saying things like my grandchildren and somebody's crying, I'll be like, what's wrong? And then I catch that and it's, oh, there it is. It's so automatic, right? There's something wrong if you're having emotions. And so we do a lot of work around emotions. And that was really the missing piece for me, was that I didn't know. At one point, I'm like, I thought I knew what connection was, but maybe I don't.
Yeah.
Because connection, what we're talking about is connecting on an emotional level. And so you have to be able to feel those emotions. And so a lot of it's around this emotional intelligence, emotional development, becoming emotionally mature, however you want to say that.
I just actually am finishing Daniel Goleman's Emotional Intelligence, his book, for the third time, because that one, it's solid. We talked about it in the book club, and it's like it was the breakthrough or the groundbreaking era. I don't know if it was years ago, but that's
Yeah, I
remarkable.
think it was like in later 90s, maybe that started coming online.
It's a common conversation point, even with the women in the collective last week, talking about emotions and how we want to help our kids identify their emotions or feel their feelings. And that was definitely not a discussion point in my family either. You describe it the way I grew up. And I don't think that it was intentional. They didn't come with a rule book that said no one can feel their feelings except for dad. But
Right.
it was what it
That
was.
their message was there.
It was
Right?
it was meant
Sense
with
of it.
love. But I'll also acknowledge that in the beginning years of my parenting, it was also that way
Oh,
until yeah,
yeah, me
until
too. Until
yeah.
my daughter, and it was like, what is going on here? Oh, geez, we're not feeling anything. Okay.
And for me, it wasn't just one relationship. It certainly started with my husband, then my parents, then the religious institution I was part of, and then it was in the relationship with my kids in about that order. But for me, I didn't think that I was not feeling my feelings. I thought I was feeling the feeling.
Right. Right.
What I would say now, I think I was feeling the feelings of other people around me, and I was completely unaware of my own feelings. And the idea of owning the authentic self, really saying, this is who I am, and I no longer will abandon myself, means for me that I need to come away. And like my husband will say, what would you like to do about, I don't know, this investment? Or how would you like to go about next weekend? And he knows I can't give you an answer right now. I need maybe an hour, maybe 2 days. Maybe I need to do some research, but I need to let it sit for a bit and then listen within. I can't immediately give him the answer. I think there are some people that are able to do that faster. Certainly he is because he's an Enneagram 1, but he actually has to wait for me to get clear. And so I've learned I have to listen within. I have to practice that emotional self awareness. Just like I shared with you at the beginning of the conversation, this is a day where I feel like, whoa, the hormonal roller coaster in my body, in my mind. There's an angsty energy. And I know that this is the day that I'm going to feel that because I am watching. I have this stuff on calendar because at this phase of perimenopause, it is not predictable, but it's so important for me to know. So I know how to frame everything. If I'm feeling a certain way, is it really whatever it is, the situation that I'm seeing right here, right now? Or is there just a running energy within that is trying to attach to the story that is outside of me? And so then I have to go inward and say, what do you need? And I say a great conversation with Diane right now is a fabulous way to address this day. This is true.
Yeah. That is
Yeah.
beautiful. That is beautiful. A couple of things you said was, I love how you take a pause with your husband and turn inward and listen to yourself. What do I think? What do I feel? What do I want in this situation? That is beautiful because And I do that too now.
Now. Yeah.
But there was for so long, I just deferred, right? I just deferred to what other people wanted and what
That's a
he
good
wanted. Or I
wife.
don't know, whatever you think, whatever you think. It doesn't matter to me. And sometimes I don't even know what my wants are. I have to really sit with it because I got really masterful at disassociating from my feelings, disassociating from my wants or needs, because that didn't get me any approval. That didn't get me any gold star. That was burdensome for people.
Yeah.
So I just disassociated from that. So it's coming back to that and know what are my needs and what are my wants. And you said self-awareness. I think this work is radical self-awareness, and boundaries is radical self-awareness.
I really love that quote by Brené Brown. The most compassionate people are the most boundaried people. And I see that in myself. I've done a lot of writing, so I can look back at different points and realize, oh, wow, if I had done a coaching business the way that I'm working with women now, I would A, never have been paid because I would never have asked for anything. But B, I would have been 24/7 available to anyone in any moment. I would not have looked at myself and said, do you actually have capacity to do this many clients, to work with this many women? I wouldn't have asked all those questions. It wouldn't have had relevance for me.
Totally. I can 100% resonate with that. And why boundary people are compassionate is because when you're not, you become very resentful
Yeah.
because you're not being taken care of.
Yeah. But you're not asking anybody to help you be taken care
You're
of.
not asking anybody to
brother.
help you. And that is on you. I mean, that is for you as adults. It is our responsibility to get our needs and wants met, which means if I need help, I need to express that. And sometimes we ask somebody and they don't have the capacity to, or for whatever reason, and then that's okay, then we can go somewhere else. But yeah, just knowing that boundaries are the way I take care of myself. And it's short-term discomfort when you're learning this, because if you're a people pleaser, boundaries can be very scary
Yes.
and feel very selfish.
Mm.
But it's short-term discomfort for long-term connection.
Yeah.
And if we go the other way, it's short-term relief for long-term resentment. Either way,
I
you're
don't
having
know.
some discomfort. You either take your medicine right away or you break out with the symptoms later.
I really love that. That's a really beautiful way to put a formula to that. It certainly is my lived experience, and I see that in a lot of women's experiences. When I said that the most compassionate people are the most boundaried people, I see that I actually have very firm boundaries in how I'm showing up. And I try to lay out the expectations in the beginning and I ask, how do you want me to be? What is it that you want me to do? I want to walk alongside people in a really effective way. So then I ask them, and sometimes they just don't know, of course, but I'm always checking in. In a couple weeks ago, I think I released an episode about a conversation with a mom who asked me, what should I do? Would you give me permission in something? I know that I shouldn't ask you, and I know I don't need to, but I want to anyway. And I did not respond right away because I was like, how do I clearly deliver the message? I am irrelevant in your choice. You need to recognize your relevance and your authority in your own life. You need to live within alignment. You need to know that what you're doing is something that you've chosen and that is the right thing for you. I have so much greater compassion for people because I've put boundaries around my world. And also because I know how much work it is. I know how challenging everything we're talking about is. I've lived it. You've lived it. It ain't easy. It is not easy. There are some moments where you're like, oh, or I could just not do this work. But just
Sometimes it feels easier just to go back to the other way. In the short term, sometimes it is easier, but again, you're gonna pay the price. Yeah. And I love the way you said, I like to check in with them. That's beautiful because I'm assuming you're able to do that because you also have learned to check in with yourself.
so what are the words that you want to leave with the woman that's listening to us?
I want to leave the woman that's listening to us with these words: change is possible,
Amen.
and you are the solution that you're looking for.
So good. Tell me, where do we find you on your podcast? And tell me a little bit more about what you focus toward. Obviously, all the conversation points we spoke about today, you also speak on your podcast, but how would you describe it?
Yeah. So yeah, you can find the podcast Chaos to Connection wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, pretty much wherever. And all of my links are there. So you can reach out on Instagram, send me a message. You can send me a message on Facebook. You can go to the website and we have a contact form. You can connect with me on free resources. So yeah, those are all the ways that you can. I'm not huge on social media. So to get to know me the best would be the podcast, but that is a good place to send me messages if you want to send a message. I work with women to dissolve these patterns that we talked about here today, the people pleasing, the avoiding the conflict, it's
Mm.
the peacekeeping, it's the don't upset anybody, and the perfectionism, doing it all right, doing it the right way, and just the worry of messing up your kids. That's the chaos that we are feeling in our life. And in the world today, in this crazy, chaotic world that feels out of control, the one thing you can do is your own inner work. And I promise you that is going to make a real impact. And what we tend to think is, oh, but that's not enough. And it is. That is
Right.
actually what is enough. And so I work with women. The first thing that we do is get on a call, decide what if this is the right fit, what their next steps are. And I work one on one with
Mhm.
women. And then once I work one on one with them, then they do have access to the community of women, which is a small, intimate group. And that's just the way I prefer to work with the women that I work with so that they do get to experience other women doing the same work. I think that's really important.
I'm just so glad that we were connected because I can hear it too, the overlap. I wish you could actually join me in my kitchen. We could just have a nice cup of
I
tea.
know.
This conversation has been so rich, and I thank you for doing the inner work because now you're bringing it as an offering to other women as well. And what you named today is exactly what I want women to hear too. The overwhelm or the feeling like you're responsible for everything, the reactivity or the self doubt, none of that means you've got an F on the report card. It means that you're human and you have work to do. And just like Diane said, change is possible. So thank you for being here, Diane. Really pleasure to chat with you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.